And good morning, you're now listening. Good morning. Plug it in. Good morning, you're now listening to Kingston Community Radio, airing on FM 92.5 and AM 920 WGHQ, Kingston, New York. This programming is brought to you by our listeners and corporate underwriters who are interested in presenting local community radio. The opinions expressed on this program do not represent those of Hamel Broadcasting or Kingston Community Radio. Listeners are encouraged to send in $10 per month to help bring this program to you. Please mail your contributions to Kingston Community Radio, Post Office Box 4364, Kingston, New York 12402. For more information or to donate online, visit our website at mykcr.org. And good morning, this is Dan Gaddis, and thank you for sharing the morning with us, being a part of our day. And it is the 10th, Thursday, the 10th of February, and about 31 degrees right now here in Uptown Kingston, and we'll be right back after these messages.
For breast, lung, or colorectal cancers are necessary to detect and treat disease at its earliest, most curable stage. But you may have some concerns and questions. Answer your questions and ease your fears by visiting radiologyinfo.org. In addition to information on screening and wellness, you'll find more than 200 descriptions of radiologic exams, procedures, and treatments to help you prepare. Get informed and be prepared. Visit radiologyinfo.org, produced by the Radiological Society of North America and the American College of Radiology.
Introducing the YMCA. Sure, you know the Y for a swim or a game of hoops, but we're more than that. We're a cause. When you take a jump shot at the Y, someone else is getting job training. Practice yoga as a team practices her leadership skills. We give people of all ages, incomes, and backgrounds a chance to learn, grow, and thrive. So while you might think of the Y as the place for lifting weights, we're also about lifting entire communities. That's the Y. We're so much more. Visit ymca.net/more.
Hi, this is Anne Marie from the great town of Kingston, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
And thank you for being with us here at KCR, Kingston Community Radio, WGHQ 920 on your AM dial, 92.5 FM, and streaming online at mykcr.org. KCR's Talk Radio, our call-in number, 845-331-9255, 845-331-9255. And you're with us here with Brian Waldman and I for a starter. And let's see what Brian might have in store for us today. Good morning, Brian.
Hi, good morning, Dan, and good morning, everybody in Kingston. Welcome to our Thursday our broadcast here of Kingston Community Radio, or what I kind of start to think about it as Kingston's hometown radio show. Something like that. It sure. Really is, because in a sense that it's available for everybody.
Yep.
It's a call-in show. Our number is 331-9255. But more, I'm thinking about it lately. I think of this program more in that vein, that it's a hometown radio show, and
it absolutely is.
And it's for our listeners to participate in as well. But it's I'm sure many of our listeners won't be happy to hear this, but if you're venturing out this morning, again, be very careful. We got in the city of Kingston anyway, we got a very light dusting of snow, and that combined with maybe some hidden ice now could pose a very hazardous condition. So I would just caution everybody as they venture out today, if they're on their way to school or work, that you maybe take it a little slower and be very careful as you make your way through Kingston this morning, because you just want to. We got through the major ice storm. If you got through that unscathed, you certainly don't want to have an incident now on a little dusting like we have today. So, do we have a caller, Dan?
You sure do.
We do.
Happens to be your co-host.
Oh, let me think for a minute. Who would that be? That would be Heidi Two Shoes.
Is that what you call her? Heidi Two Shoes?
Good morning, Heidi.
Good morning, Ulster County.
How are you?
And I have no shoes.
No shoes. Okay. No, it's a running gag Heidi has. Sometimes Heidi and I have a little bit. But hey, Heidi, great to hear from you. How are you doing this morning?
doing rather well considering we actually have a 2-hour delay today.
Oh, is that so? Is that Roundout Valley?
Yeah, it looks like, I can see the list right now. New Paltz, Pine Plains, Red Hook, Onteora, all 2-hour delay.
Oh, well, that's probably a wise thing to do because I was just saying before that the roads are a little treacherous this morning. You want to be extra careful going out this morning. So it's probably the smart thing to do was to have a 2-hour delay.
I just popped up Kingston, and that's on a 2-hour delay, too.
All right, so Kingston joining the fun, and this probably again probably a very wise thing to do considering the underlaying ice that we have still in some areas. But Heidi, how did you guys make out during the ice storm of 2022?
Yeah, well, we're finally back online with everything. That was very unexpected. I mean, I can't say that. I mean, you can't really ever be fully prepared for something like that. But, we were lucky to have a generator. But at one point, when you're on, day 2.5 of running on straight generator, Wayne, turns to me and says, "I'm a little nervous that the generator's going to break." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, it's almost 20 years old."
Oh, good.
So,
Okay, right. Wow.
Yeah, he turned it off and he did a oil change and a filter change on it, but there was that and the cost of the gas, and you couldn't get ethanol-free gas. It was a bit of a nightmare, but we ended up being warm, but being cut off from what was occurring all around you. I don't get cell phone service where I am.
I see.
So I would drive into town and try to find out, what restoration times were. I'd come back and share it with my neighborhood here. So it was bad. Honestly, it was bad. It was just a really bad time. I'm glad it's over.
It was difficult.
We are still having some aftershocks.
Is that so? Some sporadic outages, you mean, or?
Yeah, so I convinced my son that it was necessary for him to have his wisdom teeth removed.
Oh, my.
And my husband as well, because Wayne never had his removed. But it was always just routine dentistry throughout my family. If you had, partially impacted or impacted wisdom teeth, you'd have them removed. So there was a little bit of a debate here as, Bryce had 2 impacted and 2 partially impacted. So we went through with, setting up an appointment at a local dentist, and yesterday was his appointment, and, you can't eat or drink after midnight, whatever.
Right.
His appointment was at 10 a.m. Wayne was to take him in. And I do think between the two of them, they were very nervous to go.
Wow.
At 9:35, the dentist office calls us and says they lost power.
Oh, goodness.
And then they said, "Would you like to reschedule for later this afternoon?" And I'm thinking, how disastrous could this have been if it had only been 25 minutes later and Bryce was under anesthesia and they had started the procedure?
Yeah, right in the middle. That would have been terrible. It's bad enough
That
having to
would've
do
been
it under
awful.
ordinary circumstances, but to encounter something like that. So were you able to reschedule, or?
No, because now I'm just freaked out about the whole thing. I can't imagine why they didn't have a backup generator.
That's true. That's good point. Good point. I mean, well, I don't know what type of building they're in. Some of these offices are like in major buildings, like you see out in town of Ulster, but others are in regular homes or converted homes become dental offices.
I won't name the
No,
dentist,
of course
but
not.
It is in the old Montgomery Ward's building.
Okay.
But I would have thought that place would have had a backup generator. So I don't know. Anyway, we'll figure that out at another time. But yeah, and kudos to, everybody who helped restore our, power and other amenities. Very happy with that. But I just would rather move past that whole experience.
Oh, no question about it. Now, what our audience and I'm wondering right now, did Bryce go out and have a very hearty breakfast then?
Oh my gosh, he was so happy, but now I'm so nervous about. He has to reschedule. I mean, he has to have this done because typically I find if you don't remove those type of teeth, you have issues when you get older and, more downtime with your job and whatnot. And, he doesn't have all that much going on right now, so you might as well get it done.
All right.
So.
Well, thank goodness, though, that you're right, that the outage didn't occur while right in the middle of the procedure. That would have been horrific, to say the least.
Yeah, I don't know what would have happened.
Oh,
In
Heidi.
any case, how did you make out, Brian? Good?
Well, I made out okay as far as power goes. I live in the city, and I lost power for about 13 hours on Friday. And then subsequent to that, we've had a couple sporadic outages. I guess as places come online, they need to cut power off for them to do it safely. But the worst thing that happened to me was Saturday morning, Heidi. I've lived in my house almost 35 years now. And in all those years, my back steps, which happen to be concrete, have never, ever had ice on them because they're kind of covered a little bit. They are covered, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Saturday morning, I'm leaving home to go out and run a few quick errands, and I'm, as usual, in a hurry. And don't I step on the first step and go and fall. And I feel like now I've been in a car accident. My back is messed up. I got bruises like you wouldn't believe. And my shoulder, although it's getting better, I have more range of motion. My right shoulder's been very, very sore, and I'm concerned about that. I haven't had it looked at yet. I've been trying to see if it'll heal within a week or so, and we'll follow up. But that it was so. My back neighbor actually happened to be looking out his window and saw me fall. And I was on the ground in my driveway for probably a minute or two, just pulling myself back together because I fell very hard. And
Brian, that's awful.
Yeah, and he actually, Rich, my back neighbor Rich, called 911. And as I was just getting myself together and standing up and trying to, assess everything, he opened his back window and says, "Don't leave or go anywhere. I called an ambulance for you."
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so I waited. The next thing, a few minutes later, the fire truck pulls up with an ambulance in front of the house. And I met with them, chatted with them, told them, I think I wasn't in sufficient distress that I needed their services, but I thanked them for coming out and really urged them that on Saturday morning, particularly in Kingston, I needed to be the least of their concerns. They didn't need to come out for me on Saturday. I'm sure they had so many other issues on Saturday morning, but I was grateful for them
Brian, that's awful.
for the response. Yeah, it's just. Heidi, like I said, almost 35 years I've lived in the house. There's never been ice on those steps ever before that I can recall. And
the wind blew up in there.
Must have,
blew
because
up under there.
when I came home Friday after work, in the middle of the storm, they weren't iced at all. And I just remained in the home, all throughout the night and came out the next morning. And it was awful. But classic closing the barn door after the horse leaves. I added to my list of errands, I stopped at Herzog's, I'll mention it, and picked up some ice melt and put it on my back steps.
Yeah, definitely. Gotta watch out there.
Oh, my
when you
goodness.
least expect it.
And the shock
and
of
those
it.
falls can be nasty, too.
Yeah, they kept asking whether or not I hit my head, and I didn't. So, all good in that regard. That probably would have been the least damage I could have done. But
and speaking of which, did you hear about the Bob Saget?
Yes,
death?
I heard that on the news this
What
morning.
happened? I thought he didn't die of natural causes.
He did. Well, he sort of. Well, evidently he had
No, it wasn't natural cause.
No, it looks like he had some kind of a head trauma during the.
I like Bob Saget.
And they think it may have been maybe he bumped his head during because they said
that's too bad.
there was no sign of alcohol or drugs or the hotel room was in complete order. There was nothing in disarray.
So he must have fell down, hit his head.
I guess the theory they had I heard this morning.
They think he bumped his head and he had a small bleed throughout the night.
Yeah, on a cabinet or something.
God.
And you know what that reminded me of, Heidi? I don't know if you recall Natasha Richardson, the actress, Liam Neeson's wife. She was skiing, I think, up in Vermont, and she had a slight accident on a beginner's trail, hit her head, and a couple days later, the poor thing was succumbed to that injury in a similar way to Bob.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You got to take those head bumps.
Oh, no
seriously.
question about it.
If you're slip and fall, bang your head, you should get checked out. Definitely.
No question.
You don't know.
No question. But I'll tell you, Heidi, the shock of it Saturday. I mean, I bet. I'm in it's a bright sunny day. I could see my driveway was coated in the ice. And I'm carrying a couple things out of my house, getting ready to just run a few quick errands and get back home as soon as I could. And the context of it just wasn't there. I just was flying. And I'm on the ground, and I'm not sure at first what exactly happened here.
How you got there?
What happened here? Then the pain was extraordinary. My right side, by my waist, that's where I land on one of the steps. Is just it's still so swollen and black and blue. It's
That's scary stuff.
I don't know. But we'll see. If the shoulder, but that'll be okay. If the shoulder heals, okay. But if it doesn't, I'll have to visit. I'll make sure I make an appointment to see an orthopedic
Go
specialist.
over to urgent care or something. Just
Yeah.
get checked out. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm sure you got good health insurance working for the city.
I have very good health
Yeah,
insurance,
so
of which
put
I'm
it
very
to
grateful
use.
for. Yeah, I do. I put it to use, but we'll. If it heals to a sufficient point, I'll give it a week and we'll see how it goes.
I don't know.
from
Be
there.
careful there, because you're a master golfer. You really want to be proactive about this. Okay.
Well, that is a concern because
That's right.
I did pull out a calendar last night, and we're only about 7 weeks away from getting back out and playing again. So
yeah, I mean, if
that.
well, according to Puxatomi Phil.
Well, yeah, but the 7 weeks gets us to 7 weeks from today is March 31st.
Oh, then definitely.
7 weeks tomorrow is April Fool's Day. Heidi, do you ever play any April Fool's pranks, Heidi?
Yeah.
Not since she was
I played
15.
one April Fool's joke, and it backfired so bad it was awful.
What? I'm sorry, I missed the beginning. What was that?
I played one April Fool's joke. Okay, so my children are 4 years apart.
Right.
So Bryce, a little over 4 years. So, I wasn't sure if we were going to, do it again or not, have another baby. So my parents always thought I was only going to have one child. So I think I got pregnant in February. So by April, I didn't tell anyone. April Fool's Day, I put a shirt on Bryce. I didn't know it was April Fool's Day. I put on a T-shirt on Bryce that said, "I'm the big brother." And I sent him over to my parents' house. And I didn't realize it was April Fool's Day. So my mom calls me, and she was like, "Ha ha, very funny. Is this an April Fool's Day joke?" And I'm like, "It's April 1st." She's like, "Very funny, Heidi." And I'm like, "No, really. We're having another baby."
No, that's awesome.
It was an inadvertent joke, but the joke was on me. I didn't even realize it was April Fool's Day.
Right, yeah.
But,
So you pranked yourself a little bit.
Yeah, no, I don't really. I'm not a good jokester, really.
I'm not. I'm not that creative either. But we did do one in our office a number of years ago, which I thought was classic. Typically, I work for the city of Kingston. I work in the comptroller's office, and our habit is if you're going to be out that day, if you're sick or for whatever reason, we just basically text John Toohey. He's the comptroller. He supervises the office. We just shoot him a text in the morning, let him know we're not going to be in that day. That's pretty much the routine everybody follows. So I came up with the idea the night before to have everybody in the office text them that morning, flood them with texts that we're all going to be out for the day.
That's funny.
And so ordinarily we're usually the staff is usually there a few minutes before he is every morning, and although that morning he came flying in and only to see us all there, and we call that April Fool's to him because everybody, no one missed the day, but so I guess he was in a panic. I heard through the grapevine that he had called one person and said, "You got to get in there because there's no one else going to be in the office." So
that's a good one.
that's the only good one I've ever come up with in my whole life, and I don't know. I don't think we could ever pull that one on John again. What do they say? Once bitten, twice shy, whatever. So
That's
Heidi,
a good one, Brian. Maybe I'll try that at my place of employment.
there you go. Yeah, just get everybody to conspire together the night before and have everybody. And you have to have everybody in. That's the trick. You have to convince everybody. And there was a couple of people. It took a little convincing for them to prod them to say, "Come on, you just do it. You're showing up anyway. There's no harm at the end of the day, But just give them a little something to think about in the morning." But so Heidi, what else? How's things in your world these days? You commuting up to Middletown regularly?
Yep. Still commuting to Middletown. Very interesting time with the redistricting and legislatively and whatnot, things that are occurring. We can move. We can have weather events and whatnot, but in my world, people still have problems every day. People still need help cutting through the bureaucratic red tape of the New York State government. So they ring the office all day long, and it's it's so satisfying when you're able to help people.
And just so our listeners know, Heidi, you work for Senator Martucci, is that correct?
Yes, I work for State Senator Mike Martucci, and he covers part of Ulster, coming up into Ellenville, Wawarsing, a little bit of Kerhonkson. However, with the district lines being redrawn, he will no longer be covering any part of Ulster.
Really?
Michelle Hinchy, Ulster County currently has 4 senators. With the new redistricting, Senator Michelle Hinchy will now cover all of Ulster, so Ulster will go down from 4 senators to 1. And Senator Martucci is pushing up into a little bit of Broome County and all of Delaware County.
Wow.
Yeah, that's quite a historic change for Ulster County. For many, many years, I don't think I ever recall when Ulster County only was represented by one state senator. So it's going to be a change for us here. We'll see how that works for the residents, I suppose. So Heidi, you got any big Super Bowl plans? You going to a Super Bowl party, or are you just going to take it easy after last weekend?
I was just sitting here last night, and it came to me that I said to Wayne, I said, "Oh, is Sunday the Super Bowl? I'm not a fan." And he's like, "Yeah, it's Sunday." He goes, "And the next day is Valentine's Day."
Oh, that's
So
right.
I don't have any. Don't forget that either. For people listening, if you get all wrapped up on Sunday with the Super Bowl,
Yeah,
your
don't forget.
significant other
Don't
is probably
forget.
going to expect a Valentine's
That's
Day
right.
gift the next day. So be prepared.
You heard it here first.
But
So no, I don't have any Super Bowl plans. Oh, but I have a big plan now. I'm so excited about this. If I could say it, and
Sure.
I know that she's probably not listening. She's definitely not listening. But Lawrence, you know my sister-in-law Jody. She's
Of course.
such an
I love
amazing
Jody. She's great.
person. I love her to death.
Yeah, she's awesome.
I love all my in-laws, but Jody is definitely the best. And it's her birthday on the 11th.
Oh, it is? Oh,
When
that's
is that,
tomorrow.
Saturday or tomorrow?
That's
What is today?
no. Yeah, tomorrow's the 11th.
Okay. Tomorrow is Jody's birthday, so we're going to celebrate. I think we're going to try to head over to Little Italy on Saturday and celebrate Aunt Jody's birthday.
I'm going to write it down and put it in and have them announce it tomorrow too.
Yeah, that
I
would
think
be
we have a
great.
winner already
And
for
you know,
tomorrow, but I'll
Jody
definitely add her name
is
to
such
the
a rock
list.
star. Jody is such
Jody
an amazing
Haynes, right?
person. She's so independent, and she lives in a house, her own. She owns her own home by herself, and she works up at a resort out in New Paltz at the top of a mountain with a tower, and she lost power for the same amount, actually longer than we did, but she didn't have a generator. All she had was a fireplace insert. She had to keep that stove going, and it would only get up to about 56 degrees in her house.
Oh my God!
Because there were no blowers or anything. So, and she has 2 cats, and again, she's alone. She's up in the Vlaai, like up in that area, and she had COVID already in December, so she missed some time with work. And I understand that there's a strain on the workforce, but her job kept saying, you coming in today? She's like, I have to keep this fire going, or my pups are going to freeze. So
That's crazy.
She's an amazing individual. She held down her own place. I think on the last day, though, my other sister-in-law, Ronnie, went up there and fed the wood stove for her so Jody could get up to the mountaintop there and get to work on that last day, and her power was restored while she was out to work. But she's an amazing person, and she deserves all the best.
How many siblings does your husband have? I know that's quite a big family.
Yeah, there's 8.
There's 8 of them? Wow.
Right
I only know Jody and
he
your
was one of
husband,
8.
obviously. That's crazy. I didn't know there was 8 of them.
Yeah.
No, I've known Jody for
they're...
for like 15 years. She's good friends with Stephanie Lincoln. I used to work with Stephanie at the West Strand Grill. And Jody's a really nice person.
They had such a great group there. Stephanie's doing really good also.
Yeah, she's in Albany now, right?
Yeah, she's up in Albany. She bought a home also herself.
Good for her.
She's doing really good. They visit every now and then. But you guys had a really close group there, and I think some of them get together. I think they got together over the summer also. But yeah, those were some good times, crazy times, but good times back then.
Yeah, that's all good. So what do you got? What do you got planned for today? Heidi, you're off to work.
So I haven't quite figured out how today's going to work out yet, considering I have to go to work 2 hours late unless Wayne comes home and drives Lydia to school.
Oh.
Yeah. So I have to do the 2-hour math thing in my head where I'd normally be leaving the house right now.
Oh, that's right, because
but
it's
I'm
a 2-hour
enjoying
delay.
my time on the
Okay.
radio show instead.
Well, we're so happy to have you, Heidi.
Yeah, I mean,
This is a bonus for us.
I got work to do at my desk. You could take my place and be the co-host for the rest
Yeah,
of the
I know,
day.
right?
We got a great lineup of guests coming in. We got
I'm gonna get myself going here. See about getting Lydia to school. Apparently, she didn't even bother getting up because I don't hear her. I don't hear her moving around upstairs.
How old
So
is Lydia?
pretty happy to know
16?
She has a 2-hour delay.
How old is Lydia? 16?
15.
Oh,
No,
15.
She's 16. She'd be driving herself.
Oh, that's true.
No,
Okay.
Yeah.
And she goes to
this time
Roundout?
next year. She'll be able to start driving.
And she goes to
School,
Roundout?
hopefully. What was that?
Does she go to Roundout?
Yeah, she goes to Rondout. Yep, goes to Rondout. They're getting really fatigued with COVID restrictions there, but I think things will be changing soon, hopefully.
Hopefully, yes.
And
I
yeah,
guess-
you know, she got her braces off. She just wants to show off her smile. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I asked her. I said, you know, what's it like? I said, do people have like boyfriend and girlfriend? Do they walk down the hall holding hands? She's like, no. I'm like, nobody's doing that? She's like, no, not really.
Wow.
I don't know. It's just a very strange world right now.
I would think it would be difficult,
know.
too. Does she take a language, like Spanish or French or anything like that?
Oh, yeah, she took Spanish for quite a few years.
That's
This
it.
is the first year she doesn't have Spanish. Miss
Okay.
Zuckerman.
All right,
That's
because
the
I would think it
teacher.
would be difficult for students to even pick up a language wearing a mask, because that's part of, learning a language. Is,
Good point. Yeah.
I just wondered how that
Yeah.
would work. But Heidi,
Yeah.
hopefully I guess the mask restrictions have been lifted in New York State for, I guess, businesses and
Oh, we don't have to wear we don't have to wear them inside anymore.
well, they left it so the individual businesses have the option, if they want to have more restrictive rules, they can. But the mask rules are remaining in place for now in schools. I guess the governor announced yesterday that that's something that's going to be reevaluated over the next couple weeks to see at the end of the month where it stands with that. So we could all hope that. That's my hope would be, and that at the end of the month maybe the mask restrictions could be lifted at schools. Although it sounds like if the way they're working it, I'm presuming that even if the state lifts the restriction, they may leave something in place where the individual school districts have the option of leaving something in place for now. So we'll just see how that sorts itself out over the next month or so. I would think. But,
yeah, there's a lot that goes on regarding the schools with the mask.
Yeah.
They have a whole test to stay program in place right now. I think what you're going to see over the next week or so is pushback for the state to release some form of metrics that could be utilized for the districts. Don't forget, we have, one county may have a higher rate of infection than another county. So it really needs to be left up to the individual, areas to determine what's best as per the metrics, but yet nobody knows what the metrics are.
Right.
So I think that is really important for schools to make informed decisions based off of what type of metric. And like I said, perhaps a school in Orange County may have a higher infection rate than a school up in Ulster County somewhere. So again, it's never a one-size-fits-all thing, but we need to create some form of a metric. And then, we have to look at the picture, look at it as a whole, seeing, with this whole test to stay, and students are going to be coming back from a break soon for certain schools, and then are we going to have a higher rate? Is the infection rate going to go up again? So I think the governor's going to relook at that after the February break for those who still have a February break and come up with some kind of a metric. Right. That's what I think is going to happen.
Well, Heidi, speaking of breaks, you've taken us all the way to our 7:30 break.
Thank you,
so
Heidi.
We're so grateful for that, and so glad to hear from you. Always wonderful to hear from you, Heidi. And
yes, you guys as well. And enjoy your day. It's just Thursday, right? Yep, Thursday.
Yep. Yeah.
Have a great weekend. Stay safe, and I'll catch up with you guys soon.
All right, Heidi, take care.
Thank you so much. And Dan?
All righty, yep.
We could head into a commercial break. That would be great.
Thank you, Heidi Haynes, for calling in today. And obviously, thank you, Brian Waltman and Lawrence Maxwell, for hosting today as well. You're listening to KCR, Kingston Community Radio on AM 920 and 92.5 FM, and streaming online at mykcr.org. Thursday, February 10th, 31 degrees right now here in Uptown Kingston. This upcoming portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Mid-Hudson Valley Federal Credit Union, main office 1099 Morton Boulevard in Kingston. We'll be right back after these messages.
Screening exams for breast, lung, or colorectal cancers are necessary to detect and treat disease at its earliest, most curable stage. But you may have some concerns and questions. Answer your questions and ease your fears by visiting radiologyinfo.org. In addition to information on screening and wellness, you'll find more than 200 descriptions of radiologic exams, procedures, and treatments to help you prepare. Get informed and be prepared. Visit radiologyinfo.org, produced by the Radiological Society of North America and the American College of Radiology.
Introducing the YMCA. Sure, you know the Y for a swim or a game of hoops, but we're more than that. We're a cause. When you take a jump shot at the Y, someone else is getting job training. Practice yoga as a team practices her leadership skills. We give people of all ages, incomes, and backgrounds a chance to learn, grow, and thrive. So while you might think of the Y as the place for lifting weights, we're also about lifting entire communities. That's the Y. We're so much more. Visit ymca.net/more.
Hi, this is Cameron Rylance from Kingston, and I support Kingston Community Radio because it's informative.
You're with us here at KCR, Kingston Community Radio, AM 920 and 92.5 FM, and streaming online at mykcr.org. 31 degrees right now on this Thursday, February 10th, and this upcoming portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Mid-Hudson Valley Federal Credit Union, 1099 Morton Boulevard in Kingston. Today it goes up to 48 degrees, obviously. We woke up with a little bit of a dusting of snow and maybe about a half inch or so most places in Kingston. And just be very, very careful. It might be hiding some ice. We have a high of 48, so it'll probably melt off. Tonight, mostly clear. A few flurries or snow showers possible again. And it's a low near 25. And Friday, we go up to 49. It's, again, a warm day for us in February. High of 49 with partly cloudy skies. Mostly cloudy Friday night with a low of 38. And Saturday, mostly cloudy skies early and a high of 51. And Saturday night, we go down to 23 with a 40% chance of snow showers. So let's get back to the on-air studio with Brian Waltman, Lawrence Maxwell, and our new guest. Welcome back.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Kingston Community Radio, our Thursday edition. It's February 10th, 2022. And I like to think of this show, I was saying before to Dan, as Kingston's hometown radio show. Maybe that's a little long-winded name. I maybe need to edit that, but we'll figure it out. But listeners, you're going to have we have a very familiar guest sit in with us today. Someone if you're an avid listener to Kingston Community Radio, you're very familiar with this person because he calls in quite often to the show and always has something really valuable to add. And I'm very pleased to welcome to the studio. He told me it was his first time in our studio, George Post, and he's here today to speak with us about the Town of Esopus American Legion. George, welcome to the radio show.
Welcome, Brian. Thank you for letting me be here today. It's a pleasure and an honor, especially on the 20th anniversary of Kingston Community Radio being on the
today,
air.
Right?
Today, yes.
Today,
because it was mentioned that.
Where's our champagne?
Exactly. George, I didn't recognize you right off the bat, but boy, we all recognize your gorgeous voice.
They recognize the voice.
May I interject?
Yes.
It was a little announcement during the break I forgot. 2-hour delays.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, we have a list of about eight institutions. Kingston City Schools, Rondout, Red Hook, Rhinebeck, Center for Spectrum Services in Kingston, New Paltz, Saugerties, and Onteora, all on a 2-hour delay.
And a very wise thing to do. I'm sure you probably noticed on the way over the roads were a little slippery. You had to be extra careful.
It seemed like there was a little bit more snow cover and slick on this side of the creek, because I live over in the Ulster Park, New York and stuff, over in the town of Esopus.
Well, if the trends lately have been that if you live in the city of Kingston, you're getting hit harder than any place else. So,
right.
Anyway, George, you're here again to visit with us and chat about the American Legion over in town of Esopus.
Yeah, and basically all of them.
Okay, so George, tell us a little bit about yourself, what your background is, and how you became affiliated with the American Legion.
Well, first of all, I was born back in 1953 in the village of Wappinger Falls. I was at Vassar Hospital, which is in Poughkeepsie. And then my folks moved to Poughkeepsie in '64 and stuff. We was there 3 years, and then we had to find another place to rent, because that was when they was doing the new Route 9 over in Poughkeepsie. And they bypassed all of the city of Poughkeepsie. And then after that, we moved to Milton, New York, where I attended Marlborough High Schools. I graduated Marlborough back in 1971. I enlisted in the Marine Corps in May of '71 on the delayed enlistment program.
May '71.
And
did you go to Paris Island?
Sure did. I went on.
How much fun was that, George?
Well, let's just say we was there. There's no fun involved. But I went active duty July 28th of '71. Did my time in Paris Island and everything else, which definitely is an experience.
Yeah,
and
I can only imagine.
Yeah, then from there I went to a supply school down in Memphis, Tennessee. And I also I was stationed at the Marine Corps Air Station, Cherry Point, North Carolina.
All right.
Just about a year. And then I got assigned over to, I had a warrant officer who called me into his office one morning. Lance Corporal Post, I'm going to do you a favor. I'm going to give you a chance to see the world. I knew I was in trouble at that point, because I got stationed on Okinawa.
Is that right?
Yes, I was at the Marine Corps Air Station Fatima, Okinawa, which was KC-130 outfit.
Isn't that interesting, Okinawa?
I was in maintenance supply. I ordered all the items that they needed for the airplanes to keep them flying, and whatever other parts they needed. And so it was interesting. And our birds also flew missions over to Vietnam in '73.
Yeah, that was at the tail end of...
Oh, that was winding down.
Right, Vietnam was winding down. I think it ultimately was '75 when the war ended.
The spring of '75, I think, when Saigon fell.
Right.
And then from there, I re-enlisted when I was on Okinawa.
Funny, you liked it that much?
Yes, I enjoyed the Marine Corps.
Good for you.
And then
they say once you're a Marine, you're always a Marine.
That is for sure. There's no such thing as an ex-Marine or a former Marine.
No, you're just a Marine, period.
You are a Marine, period.
That's right.
For the rest of your life.
Semper Fi.
Yes, do or die. And so from there, I had a choice of duty stations. I put in 3 choices, because when you enlist, they give you a chance to pick a duty station. I ended up at the Marine Air Reserve Training Detachment, Andrews Air Force Base, Washington, D.C.
Okay. Which is now joint, they call Joint Base Andrews now.
Joint Base Andrews and stuff. And I was there at the time when the French president came in on the Concorde. That was a sight to see that thing coming in and landing, and the Raider takes off.
Right, and that's when the Concorde was a very new aircraft.
Right, that was
just being introduced in the 70s.
Yep, that was back around 74, 75.
The transatlantic 3-hour crossing of
supersonic speed.
Incredible, very expensive to run. So George, and how did you after your military career? Where were you employed?
Okay, after I got out in January '79, I spent about a year and a half doing odd jobs and stuff. And then in March of 1980, I was hired by the Postal Service.
Oh, okay.
At that time, I worked at the main facility that was in Wappinger Falls.
Yes, I'm familiar with that, yep.
At Imperial Plaza. And from there, in September 1990, we moved to Stewart Airport, right down by the runway and stuff. And so I stayed with them until October 31st, Halloween of 2009. They came with a buyout and stuff, and I chose at that time, hey, with the price of gas, and I was going to retire in 2 years anyway, I figured, okay, it's time to go. And while I was still working at the post office, a buddy of mine who worked at the post office said, how many years active duty did you do? I did 7.5 years active duty. And he said, you ought to join the reserves. You could do 12.5 years standing on your head. I took the man's advice, and I joined the 854th up here in Kingston. I was with them for about 4 or 5 months, decided I didn't really like them. I transferred down to the 105th Air National Guard base at Stewart. And, okay, at Stewart, and I spent 14 years with them. I retired from them in November of 1997. I loved the duty down there. It was fantastic.
Congratulations on that. That's quite a. So, in a real sense, because I happen to consider if you work for the United States Postal Service, you're in public service. They're a my view, our postal service in this country is a national treasure. And I also believe in my heart of hearts that it's also a well-operating one is vital to our national security. And so in the truest sense of the word, your professional life was spent large measure in public service to our country in every sense of the word. And I want to thank you for that, George, and congratulate you on your choices you made for your career. That's wonderful.
Thank you. Now, the post office was a great job and everything else, and with the post office, it's not always 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, because where I worked, we operated 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Our jobs was to process order mail. When I worked there in the afternoons, I was there from 1:30 to 10 at night. And our jobs was to process the mail that was mailed in the whole 124, 125, 126, and 127 zip code areas.
Is that right?
And
so sorting that and
sorting that, separating, and then shipping it out at the end of the evening to we had trailers that would go to JFK Airport, LaGuardia, and we had regular box trucks, straight jobs, the 18-footers and stuff that would go to the Bronx, the different halves, and then to get rid of order mail that was going outside of the area. And then the shift that came in after us, the night shift, they would process all the incoming local mail. And by 6 o'clock in the morning, order trucks was being loaded at the back dock, and they were heading out to all the different towns and stuff in those zip code areas. So that place operated 24/7.
I'm sure it did. Well, if you're just tuning in, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very familiar personality. We should call it a Kingston Community Radio personality, a regular caller. His name is George Post, and he's in the studio with us. He told me before that this is his first time in the studio, so we want to welcome him here, of course. And if you have any questions for George, this is your chance. George is being a frequent caller and a personality on this radio program. You don't necessarily as a listener have a chance to call in and ask George a question where you've heard him before. So if you've always had a question for George, or if you've appreciated his calls, why not give us a call and maybe say hi to him? Our number is 331-9255, and again, as soon as George speaks, everybody's going to recognize him. But George, you're here today. You also wanted to chat with us about the American Legion in Esopus and other locations, right?
And the other veterans groups that's out there. I'm a member of the Catholic War Veterans, Post 386 down in New Windsor, New York.
Okay.
And that is a post that is where you have to be a veteran, one thing, and you have to be a practicing Catholic.
Similar to the AOH. If you're a member of the Ancient Order of Hibernians, you have to be of Irish descent and a practicing Catholic.
And I'm also a member of the Veterans of Foreign Wars down in the town of Newburgh, where basically you had to be in service in time of conflict and either be boots on the ground or support troops on the ground. And being with the KC-130 outfit, that was the part where we supported troops on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also a member of the town of Esopus American Legion.
Right.
I've been a member since there. I joined in '98, and I became active in 2009 when I retired from the post office.
Yeah, you had a little free time. You had time to. You had freed
Right.
up some time for you to devote to this.
And it was always something that I wanted to do because, hey, I believe in the veteran community and stuff. And like with the American Legion outposts and stuff, we're a post that gradually is losing members.
Mm-hmm.
And we definitely need the younger folks who was in the service to step up and join.
So what are the qualifications for the American Legion? Maybe I don't necessarily fully understand it. You obviously, to be a member, you need to be a veteran. You have to have been on active duty and be a retired veteran from that, right?
Right.
Can active duty people join the American Legion or no?
Yes, they can.
Oh, they can. Okay, so you either active or retired.
Right.
Is the American? I know. Do you have to? Did you need to have been assigned to a foreign conflict if you were in the American to be a member of the American Legion?
Early in the beginning, yes. It's the Congress is the one who sets the dates of eligibility.
Oh, they do? That's set by Congress. Interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
The American Legion is the only group that is really authorized by Congress as a veterans group.
I see. I wasn't aware of that.
And the American Legion, a couple years ago, Congress changed the dates. Now, if you was on active duty any time from December 7th, 41 until present, now you can join the Legion. Before, you had to be in only during times of conflicts.
I see.
So your Cold War veterans was not eligible to join.
But certainly they were on the front lines during the Cold War.
They
No
had
question
their
about
job
it.
that they was doing, yes.
No question about it. I've known some people who served during that. Because that would be the contemporary people of my age would have.
Right.
A lot of them would have served during the Cold War, and I've certainly whether they served in the Navy, in the submarine corps, or in any of the other branches.
Right.
They certainly were on the front lines. My father was in the Army, and he was in Germany, and he was Checkpoint Charlie, and in Berlin, and basically they were told that if there was ever to be a conflict, that they would be the first casualty. They'd have been among the first casualties. So certainly, if not for them, where would we have been?
Right.
So certainly that's I think a very wise decision then for them to amend that in a sense of making those people qualified or eligible to become members. That's a very good thing.
Yeah, and my main belief was if you served, you're a veteran. I don't care what time frame you served. You was there doing your job 24/7, and if you got caught, you was ready to go.
Right.
And so I'm glad they did change and stuff. And like they talk about the American Legion, they have a lot of good programs and stuff that they
Tell us about some of
facilitate.
those programs.
Yeah, the one thing with the American Legion is we're not just the ones that post that have bars and stuff. They just don't go there to drink and get drunk. They go there to talk to fellow veterans and stuff. And sometimes it's a healing process for some of the ones who have had
They can get
problems.
things off their chest
Right.
sometimes,
And
maybe
talking to a veteran one-on-one, it's one of the
because
ways.
they've had shared similar experiences.
Right.
They can. It's relatable. They can truly relate to a problem or a condition or circumstance under which they lived under.
Right, and one of the programs that the Legion sponsor is a program called Boy State.
I'm familiar with Boys State.
Yeah, I've got the shirt
I
on
see that.
right now for the people who can see us on YouTube and stuff. where-
Worldwide, and by the way, that gets archived, so this never goes away.
Yes, I know. I'm going to have to live with this one. But no, Boy State is a program where we send kids up to Morrisville, New York for a week. Like this year, they're going up, I believe the date's June 26th to July the 1st.
What's the name of the town?
Morrisville College,
Warsaw. Yep.
just outside of Albany. And they spend it 6 days up there with around 1,100 other boys and everything else, or young gentlemen, and they are chosen from being in the top percentage of the class and stuff. They may have an interest in going to a service academy or going active duty or just for the experience. And Boy State is one thing that you would like to have on your resume.
Well, my nephew, Kevin, when he was in high school, he went to Boy State, and he had a very good experience with it.
Yes.
So again, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sitting here, we're visiting, having a nice chat with George Post. He's a very active caller into our program, Kingston Community Radio, and we're just having a good chance to chat with him about the American Legion and SOPAS and a lot of the good programs that they have to offer.
I have a question in regard to the Postal Service now. Do you stay in touch with it? I'm sorry, I'm jumping in, but what is the? I mean, you're talking about the kind of processing that you were doing in 2000, 2005, and stuff like that. Do you know the new technologies? Are you familiar with what the new technologies are that are used for sorting? It's just amazing.
Oh yes, people would be very amazed if they ever was able to go down and. Well, now they have to go up to Albany to see the plant because everything got transferred up to Albany a couple of years after I retired, which had no coincidence that I retired. They had to move
George,
the service.
don't be modest. You knew as soon as you walked out the door that the operations had to go shift someplace else. They just couldn't carry on without you.
No, I had a feeling that down the road they would because the volumes was dropping.
I see.
But they got all kinds of machines and stuff now. Like when you mail a letter with that stamp on it, it goes through a canceling machine, and then it gets routed to these machines that read the zip code and stuff and direct it to wherever it goes. And then later on in the evening, if it stays local, and like Kingston mail, goes through another set of machines that make it carrier route sorted, to where once the carrier gets the mail now, it's sorted from the first house on this route to the last house.
So everything's in order for
Everything
him
in order, to where they don't have to spend so much time now back in the office.
That's amazing.
Although sometimes you still get an error. Every once in a while.
Oh, sure.
I've gotten like a letter that's shown up in my house. I'll have the same house number, but a different street. You know, I happen to live on Abbey Street, so the street may be like another street that begins with the letter A.
Right.
And so obviously then I'll take it. I'll usually then make a point of bringing it to the post office. I don't want to take even a chance of leaving it in my box with a note I'll bring it to the post office. And, we got the wrong.
Right. But everything is so automated nowadays where.
Yeah.
It's amazing. The machines themselves are amazing.
And just even thinking about it, that we're not talking about things that are necessarily printed by machines. We're talking about handwritten addresses. And
so it's pretty high-end scanners.
And not only that, but think about every individual's handwriting is different. And just to be able to consistently read that and make it correct read and send it to the place, it's just remarkable when you think about it.
Right. Exactly.
Has the post office grown in volume because of, for instance, Amazon and various other online purchasers and stuff like that?
Well, with the package services, yes, they have. But as far as your regular normal mail, email had done tremendous damage to the postal service and everything else, and it definitely has hurt them. So.
All right.
But their volume is not like it used to be. So now they basically depend on the packages and everything like that. So.
So, George, just swing back for a minute. We have a few minutes left, and we're sitting with George Post from the American Legion in SOPAS. Give us a little bit, maybe more detail. What's some of the programs? There's Boy State.
Yeah, Boy State.
And you're involved in that. And
yes.
is that involved in like identifying people who would be good candidates to go and helping them through the application process?
Well, with the Boy State program, I'm also involved with Ulster County American Legion. I'm the finance officer for the Ulster County American Legion. And part of my job is I set up the bus for the Boy State candidates when they go up to Morrisville. And I also get the money from the different posts because it costs each post roughly $475 per candidate. because for the food and everything and administrative costs of them being up there. So it's expensive proposition for the Post.
Well, speaking of which, is there a way that the Post does some fundraising?
Yes, like our Post, the town of Esopus, we do a raffle every year.
I see.
And we have prizes of $400, $200, and $100. And we have the Post beggar that normally will go and collect different gift certificates from the businesses around the area. So we usually have about 20, 25 gift certificates along with our 3 cash prizes.
What time of year can we look forward to this raffle occurring?
We start around July. And,
my favorite time of the year, summer.
you usually will find me outside of Adams 2 days in July.
That is right. I've seen
normally
you there.
On a Wednesday or Friday, and it's a great program.
Yeah.
It's one that I believe in tremendously, and you also find me and maybe another Post member outside the post office in Port Ewan.
I see. Okay.
And in the month of October, we're at Van Loan's Beer and Soda in Port Ewan.
Okay, so you start. So when's the? By the way, Van Loan's another great institution, and so
they support the veterans tremendously. They give us our spot in the store by the cooler, right across from the checkout counter.
Prime location.
Every year.
That's wonderful. So then, ultimately, when is the drawing usually occurs?
We draw the winners on November 11th.
Oh, Veterans Day. That's very appropriate.
We will do our service at the monument there by the town hall at 11:11 on Veterans Day. And then from there, we go back to the community room downstairs because the town is a big supporter for the veterans in the town of Esopus. And we draw all the winners.
Wonderful.
And then we contact the winners and stuff. And usually we have no trouble giving out the prizes to them. But every now and then you get a bad phone number.
Oh, yeah, you got to track them down.
It's the one.
That's a happy chore, I'm sure, though.
Oh, yeah. It's one fundraiser that we have every year. And it normally brings in anywhere from $2,500 to $4,000 for the Post.
And it helps you could support all the good work that you do.
We use that money to pay for the kids to go to Boys State. And we also have people who volunteer to send a child to Boys State.
Wonderful. Hey, George, I'm so glad I've had a chance to sit down. I'm sure all of our listeners are really enjoying this visit that we're having with them this morning and learning all that you do out there with the American Legion and all the record of service, the incredible record of service you've provided to our country. It's just a wonderful story.
Right. The most important thing, if I could bring out anything here today, is the fact that if you served on active duty, please consider joining a veterans group or any group, because like you got the Lions out here, you got the Elks and everything else. All your service groups are desperately looking for people. They need the younger blood to come in. We are not getting any younger. Like, I'm going to turn 69 this year, and I'm one of the young ones in our Post.
Young and always will be young at heart, I'm guessing, as well.
Right. And it's one of those things where you don't have to attend every meeting. Just that, like, when we do our services, Memorial Day, like we're trying to get the parade together this year for the town of Esopus, which has been canceled the past 2 years.
Hopefully we get that back on track this year.
Right. And then we also do Flag Day services. Usually every other year we try to get it down at Robert Graves School.
Oh, okay.
But COVID the past couple of years, we haven't been able to be there.
Flag Day, June 14th. Again, right in my wheelhouse, my favorite time of the year.
And like yourself, Brian, I like to golf too. I usually
That's right. We've talked about this before.
I usually go out to Green Acres Golf Course.
Yes,
and they've done a tremendous job.
Brian
out there.
Bonesteel has done wonders out there. We got to have him on. We got to make a note to myself.
Yes, Brian is
Brian on as we get close to the season because it's just tremendous the work he's done out there.
Brian is a fantastic gentleman and stuff too. So,
well, George, I can't thank you enough for coming in this morning. I know I really enjoyed listening to everything you've done for our country, and the record of your service, and whether it be in the Marines or in the Postal Service. Just what a tremendously interesting life you've had. Okinawa, I've dreamt of going to Japan. Someday I'd like to go. Maybe we can have you back in here. We'll talk about your experiences just in Japan sometime, see what that, we'll dig into that.
Right.
But George Post, I want to thank you so much for coming in today. We're at the top of the hour now, believe it or not. There's no time faster than radio time.
Right,
George.
and I'd just like to say one thing. It was an honor to serve this country.
Of course.
And when everybody say thank you for the service, I say, no, it was an honor for me to serve our country. We have one of the greatest countries in the world.
Mutual appreciation there, George. That's what it is.
So
Thanks
thank you
so
very
much for
much.
coming.
Everybody enjoy the day and continue to donate and contribute to KCR.
Yes.
Yes.
Dan, top of the hour.
Thank you. And that was Brian Waltman and George Post, and thank you also, Lawrence Maxwell, for co-hosting today. And you are listening to KCR, Kingston Community Radio, AM 920 and 92.5 FM. It is now 8 o'clock a.m., Thursday, February 10th, and it's about 32 degrees right now here in Uptown Kingston. And this last portion of Kingston Community Radio was brought to you by Mid-Hudson Valley Federal Credit Union. 1099 Morton Boulevard in Kingston, their main office. We'll be right back after these messages.
Screening exams for breast, lung, or colorectal cancers are necessary to detect and treat disease at its earliest, most curable stage. But you may have some concerns and questions. Answer your questions and ease your fears by visiting radiologyinfo.org. In addition to information on screening and wellness, you'll find more than 200 descriptions of radiologic exams, procedures, and treatments to help you prepare. Get informed and be prepared. Visit radiologyinfo.org. Produced by the Radiological Society of North America and the American College of Radiology.
Introducing the YMCA. Sure, you know the Y for a swim or a game of hoops, but we're more than that. We're a cause. When you take a jump shot at the Y, someone else is getting job training. Practice yoga as a team practices her leadership skills. We give people of all ages, incomes, and backgrounds a chance to learn, grow, and thrive. So while you might think of the Y as the place for lifting weights, we're also about lifting entire communities. That's the Y. We're so much more. Visit ymca.net/more.
Hi, this is Cameron Rylance from Kingston, and I support Kingston Community Radio because it's informative.
And we're back, and you're listening to KCR, AM 920 and 92.5 FM, the home of Kingston Community Radio. Thursday, February 10th, 32 degrees right now here in Uptown Kingston, and we get to have a high of 46 degrees today. This upcoming portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Rondout Savings, always working for you and our community with branches in Kingston, West Hurley, and Hyde Park, also online at rondoutbank.com. Equal housing lender, member FDIC. And again, 2-hour delays pretty much across the board here within a 15-mile radius. 2-hour delays for Thursday the 10th, Kingston, City Schools, Rondout, Red Hook, Rhinebeck, Center for Spectrum Services, Kingston, New Paltz, Saugerties, and Onteora. Let's get back to the on-air studio with Brian Waltman and Hayes Clement. Welcome back.
Thank you very much, Dan. And ordinarily at the top of the hour, the second hour, the 8 o'clock hour is when we do our birthday celebration. But lo and behold, and sad to say, we don't have any birthdays in our folder today, but I'm sure some people out there are celebrating a February 10th birthday. And so I want to wish everybody that's celebrating a birthday today to the very happiest of birthdays and all the best for the new year. And while we can't provide you with a Boyce's Milk House cow pie, I would certainly recommend that maybe you pop over there yourself and just pick one up if you can.
There you go.
So again, this is a morning where we have familiar voices on Kingston Community Radio. Prior, we had George Post on before, who's very familiar to all our listeners, and now I'm so pleased to be joined by Hayes Clement, a very familiar voice to the avid listeners of Kingston Community Radio, a former host on Thursdays, I believe.
It was actually Thursday, yeah.
Andy Turco 11 back in the day, so this is like old times, old familiar.
Old home week.
Old home week, there you go. And Hayes, it's just a great pleasure to see you. And
Great to see you, Brian.
Hayes is very involved, I guess, in the local real estate market, right?
Yeah.
Residential primarily, or?
Both commercial and residential.
Okay.
But I pulled some stats today to talk about residential if you're interested in that.
Very interested.
But it's good to be back.
It's good to be back. Good to see you.
It's
yeah.
nice coming in for the 8 o'clock hour as opposed to the 6 o'clock or the 7 or
yeah,
whatever.
7.
Yeah.
It's funny. Like, I actually set my alarm for a little earlier this morning, and whenever I do that, the rest of the day I feel like I'm early. I'm running early the rest of the day. It's just when you get up that early in the morning, everything's quiet. And
You have to, or if I have to get up before 6 or 6:37, you drink so much coffee. You have to drink so much coffee at the 6 o'clock hour that you're crashing by 11. That's my issue with it.
So. Hey, it's good to see you.
Good to see you, Brian.
Yep. Just so, what you're affiliated with? Is it Berkshire Hathaway?
So I am an associate broker at for the Clement, Brooks, and Safier team.
Okay.
At Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Hudson Valley Properties.
You must have a
It
huge
just
business
flows off
card.
the tongue, right? My business card is 8.5 by 11.
Yeah. Forklift to hand you my business card.
So I and 2 partners have a team. We're 10 agents in total, including ourselves.
This has been quite a transformative time in real estate in our area. Though,
It's been extraordinary.
Yeah,
People don't realize, when we talk about, and, there have been so many countless words written in the national newspapers about what's happened in the Hudson Valley real estate market.
Even yesterday, Ellenville got it right up in the New York Times.
And on top of it, yet another Kingston write-up in the Times maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago.
Right, exactly.
So that continues nonstop, which is a sign of the health of the real estate market here for certain. And I'll talk a little bit about the run-up in prices and what effect that's had. But people sort of tend to look at it in this post-COVID context. And the fact is, this was a seller's market if you owned a home in Ulster County for the 2 years prior to that. So we're looking at 4 years into now a seller's market, which is a very unusual thing.
That's quite an extended period of time.
Yeah,
for that, isn't it?
yeah. But it shows no sign of slowing down, at least right now. I would say I feel like buyer activity, because of the weather primarily and the seasonality of getting back to not looking so much in the winter. The buyer traffic, I find anecdotally, has maybe leveled off. But the supply, the inventory of houses available has gone down even further. So you're still in this situation where supply is even further off of what the demand is, even though demand has slackened a tad. So you're still seeing prices sort of spiking.
Okay, but in your view, though, it's counterintuitive to me as someone who's not involved in real estate. What is prolonging or extending this buyer's market? I thought would be
seller's
that seller's market. Excuse me. I would think ample inventory would be, but if it's not necessarily so, you're saying, right?
The problem is, and I see this every day. I have a lot of people call me about, I'm interested in selling my house. I'm interested in taking advantage of the run up in prices, but where am I going to go once I sell my house? So stuff stays frozen in place unless you have a clear plan to move to Texas or Florida or someplace south.
Right. So someone necessarily, if they may be thinking of selling their home, but they would really have a strong desire to remain in this community, that may not be the.
Yeah.
So
there are a lot of people, a lot of older people our age, ready to downsize, and a lot of younger families now ready to get to something bigger. But the market is kind of frozen as long as people are staying put because they don't have the next place to go to. So that's going to be the challenge this year, is just to find houses for sale.
Right, and I don't know how they refer to a primary or secondary home, or
the line on that is so blurred right now in a market like Ulster County that I don't even try to
I can only imagine,
quantify what's permanent, what's part time, that kind of thing.
Well,
here's a stat though. This is just this morning before I drove over here. As of this morning, if you're looking for a house in Kingston. Not commercial, just a house.
We're talking the city of Kingston
City
proper?
of Kingston,
Okay.
not town of Ulster, not Ulster County, just the city of Kingston. There are 24,000 people. I think there are probably 8,300 houses.
That sounds about right, yeah.
19.
Wow.
Of the 19,
That's scarcity.
7 of the houses are priced below 300. So if you're looking below 300, you got 7 houses to see. If you've got a budget of 300 to 500, you've got 10 houses you can look at. And if you're looking for something in that sort of higher end category above 500, 2 houses. 2 houses.
Gosh.
All of the city.
Thus the seller's market.
Yeah.
That's remarkable. That's astounding when you really drill down and see those kind of numbers.
So that's the problem and the challenge for a lot of brokers right now, including myself. You've got 10 buyers, 12 buyers actively looking. You're keeping a list. You're looking every day what comes on the market, what might be available, and there's just nothing to tell them. It's common to hear, "Why haven't you sent me anything? Why haven't you called me with any new ideas?" It's like there are none.
Hey, by the way,
really
I said I want to buy a home. We haven't heard from you, right? Oh goodness! And I would think it presents even considering at the price points that you mentioned and the availability is a young family starting out.
Yeah.
A young person maybe on a moderate income that's been renting, and first of all, it's very difficult, I'm sure, for them to even save up for a down payment on an what are their options?
Well, when inventory gets that low and there's still active buyers out there, and you've only got 19 houses to choose from, the issue becomes, even if you've saved a down payment, even if you're well qualified to get a mortgage, there's going to be a cash buyer.
Right.
Quite often. And so
that's always a preferred,
right?
Because it can get the contract quicker. Is that why a cash buyer is more?
It's not as much. It can get the contract quicker. The thing that's attractive right now about a cash buyer, as I always tell sellers, it's all cash at the closing table. So if somebody's well qualified,
right?
It doesn't really matter. The thing that it matters on right now is if you're mortgaged, the house is going to get a bank appraisal. Ulster Savings, once they, qualify for a mortgage, they also want to look at the value of the house and make sure the asset that they're funding is worth it.
Right.
So sometimes in a market like this where prices have run up, you can run into appraisal problems because an appraiser is looking backward at the past 12 months.
There could be a lag there?
There's a lag. So an appraiser is looking at recent comparable sales in the past 12 months. So it's a backward-looking exercise. Often if prices are spiking, the price, appraisals fall short is the bottom line sometimes. So your risk as a seller selling to somebody who's mortgaged is that the house won't appraise, and you'll have to renegotiate like the price if somebody needs to borrow all the money. On a cash deal, there's no appraisal, so that's actually the more attractive aspect.
And the buyer
of it
even
right
has
now.
flexibility if there's more than one cash buyer involved. That they have.
Well, in a multiple offer situation, some say you get 4 offers on a house. There could be a mix. Could be a mix of cash buyers and mortgage buyers, and I've seen mortgage buyers win out over cash buyers, but it's because they're going high. They're offering a higher number.
So demand is still outpacing.
And offering to make up any appraisal shortfall.
So demand is still outpacing supply.
Absolutely.
Gosh, that's astounding after all this time. Anyway, we're sitting here on a Thursday morning with Hayes Clement. I'm not going to, Hayes, forgive me for not trying to repeat the name of the firm that you're with. But
I'll do it. Associate broker
yes,
at the Clement Brooks and Safier team at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Hudson Valley Properties. Come on, Brian. Get with it.
Maybe if you repeat it 2 more times, I'll have it.
If you're going to have television, you need the Chiron, so we can put all that up there.
But it's so good to have Hayes back in the studio again, and just Hayes is our expert on the local real estate market, and so are we finding, you say you do work also in the commercial sector too?
Yeah.
Are you finding similar?
Commercial was soft, intuitively, commercial was soft. When residential was taken off during COVID to new highs, commercial was soft because COVID destroyed a lot of retail or hurt retail, restaurants, things like that.
Right.
So commercial was pretty flat, but we're starting to see a big uptick in that now.
Remarkable.
Building on Broadway, home of a longtime pizzeria. This is public record. I'm not saying anything out of school because it's published.
It's been.
There's some buildings fetching some very very high prices right now.
Hopefully they'll be put back on be sold, and we'll get new activity in there and put back into good use. And
I had the highest, I think, commercial sale in Uptown last year, and that was the old Masonic building on Albany Avenue, which family Woodstock bought for their new headquarters. But that was, $1.8 million.
I remember when that building was being renovated.
Bob Carey.
Yes, I think that was like in either late 70s or early 80s. I want to say.
You're losing your sense of time, Brian.
Am I?
I think it was later than that.
Later
I think it was
than that?
90s.
It might be. Okay, I'm confusing with the other building they did on the corner of Clinton Avenue and Albany. There, they did that brick building as you pull straight through. They did that building, maybe. It was
Yeah.
Maybe that was the earlier project. Okay.
Let me show you some. I pulled some other stats on
We love
residential
statistics
sales.
here.
Okay.
Absolutely, I do. I dig into this all day. I love it.
And these are sold houses, houses that actually sold, not just listed. This is purely City of Kingston. In 2019, the median sold price of a house in Kingston, this would be the pre-COVID year, was $192,000. Last year, 2021, so there's a 2-year increase, $192,000 in median sale price in 2019. It was $280,000 in 2021.
Goodness.
That's a 46% increase.
That's astounding.
Over 2 years. The average in 2019, again, sold price, residential, City of Kingston only, $216,000. Average price last year, $314,000. That too is a 45% increase. We talked about houses $500,000 and above in Kingston. You remember better than I, but even 3-4 years ago, that was very rare that you saw a house for $500,000.
It's almost the top of the market.
It was very top of the market. And I remember selling some of them, and it was, that was like people eyebrows raised, like they got $500,000 for that. But that was sort of the barrier. Like you were getting to the really high end in Kingston at $500,000. 2019, year before COVID, 4 houses listed and sold in Kingston above $500,000. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2020, 10, a little more than doubled. Last year, 28. So you went 2 years ago from 4 houses that listed and sold for $500,000 to 28 last year.
That's 7 times
Yeah.
increase. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's not uncommon at all now.
So, all that having been said, Hayes.
Yeah.
And I know maybe not necessarily be the primary focus of what your business, so to speak, but I think about it all the time. My son lives in Poughkeepsie now. He and his wife live in Poughkeepsie. They have a home down there. But someone in that age group, someone in your 30s, which we all think about as the common time in life to get into a home. At least that's
absolutely.
That's definitely an objective. What advice do we have for young people who are maybe necessarily making maybe a combined household income of say about $100,000? What do we tell these folks? We necessarily say maybe not the City of Kingston, maybe the outlying areas, or how do we advise them to proceed?
Well, the City of Kingston is not unique in this. I'd say we got hotter quicker than other areas in Ulster County, but everything is hot, and these inventory problems exist throughout the county. I don't know. I think there's still some up-and-coming places that are still maybe a little underpriced relative to the market, places like Ellenville and Apponeok, the southern part of the county. But it's tough, and it's heartbreaking sometimes to see younger couples, saved and are qualified, and who are having real struggle right now getting into a house. A lot of them, you got to open up your sort of vision field as to where you're willing to live, and what kind of house you're willing to buy. The one thing that's a little soft in this market are things that need a ton of work, like renovation,
Right.
because of supply chain
project
problems
houses,
and the hype about not being able to get a contractor for many, many months. Some of which is overrated. There are people you can get contractors. It's not easy, but it's doable. But if somebody's handy or can live with something that needs renovation, can live with it in a pre-renovation state for a couple of years, maybe that's the way to go.
How my parents did it.
Yeah.
'Cause my father was very handy.
Yeah,
Obviously,
I
you
remember
knew
your dad
my
well.
folks, and
I've still got some lamps every time I turn them on. These lamps only work because
God
of
help me.
Brian's dad.
I needed a lamp repaired not long ago. I thought about them. But yeah,
And
it's a
that's one
challenge.
of the, like your dad, there's nobody who does that anymore.
You're right. Yeah, I went and bought a new lamp. Which, by the way, he would have been so. Well, I don't want to go down that road. But let me
There's
think.
nobody who does anything like that. The other thing we're desperately in need of, there's nobody who does shoe repairs in Kingston anymore. Nobody.
Got that right.
Like,
you can't get a soul.
You gotta. I have to. If I have like two pair, I don't wear dress shoes that much anymore.
Right.
I have to FedEx them down to the city to get
what I do.
resold.
That's exactly what I do.
Yeah, that's bad.
Yep. Or what I've found myself doing, I'll combine a trip to the city,
Yeah.
drop them off there, and then pay for them to
Right,
mail
exactly.
them back to me.
That's
But
pretty much that's the only game in town.
no,
now.
there's no cobblers. Hayes, in the city of Kingston. Is it all across the city? I mean, like are all the wards experiencing the same thing? There's no like if I'm thinking maybe the 4th ward over by the Kingston Library, are there deals or bargains or good values to be obtained in that neighborhood?
The first hot area in Kingston when this all started was sort of uptown.
Right,
That
yes.
was typically everybody wanted to be uptown,
Sure.
walkable to the
Yep.
stockade. Then the Rondout also took off.
Mm-hmm.
That's got a sort of a Brooklyn vibe that a lot of younger couples from the
does.
city like. So I would say that they're both equally popular. And then if you are looking under 300, you got to go to Midtown now. So I mean, this has been a boon to Midtown in terms of values. There's a house on Henry Street that sold for over $500,000 not the past year. I mean, that would have been unimaginable.
Which part of Henry Street? If I'm, it was more towards
towards
Wall
Fair.
Street? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, Fair. Okay.
Or Wall, yeah.
Yep.
So it's been a big uplift there on property values, but it's strong all over at this point.
Uplift. That's like
Yeah.
that's a geological term. Uplift. We're seeing a lot of that, I suppose.
I used to call this a sort of no compromise market. Younger couples from the city coming up here, they desperately wanted a place, but they had very tight criteria on the neighborhood, the type of house, the level of finish, everything, and they would. They could lose out, and everybody was kind of chasing a specific kind of house. They'd lose out 4 or 5 times. And back in the old days, if that happened to you, you start broadening your search selection, right? You start saying, okay, well, I'll also look at Hurley. I'll also look at Town of Ulster. I'll look at something more suburban. Right. They don't. They tend to stick with that one thing they want, even if they've lost out in multiple offer
So they're
situations.
persistent more than.
And so a certain kind of house spikes really
Gotcha,
high,
yeah.
and that drives some of those statistics.
So Hayes, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this to you, but the house I live in happens to be the boyhood home of Sergeant Robert Dietz.
Yeah.
Who Dietz Stadium was named for.
Sheffield Street?
No, Abbey Street.
Abbey Street.
Which, by the way, I also joke with the city all the time. Always down in the engineer's office, kidding them, said, whenever you're doing anything in the city, you should do it by alphabetical order. Because Abbey Street is at the top of that list. But my home is a boyhood home. And sadly, when he went to...
Oh, wow.
Is where the home...
So his family was there when he died.
Yeah. His father, yes. And so I kind of joke around, like, is there, like, for someone like me, if I'm looking to sell, do I go up to Timely Signs and get a bronze plaque and put it, boyhood home of Congressional Medal of Honor winner? Does it add a little cachet to the
I
value?
think it would. It would. But, yeah, it would add interest, too, even if somebody weren't familiar with his heroism
Right.
or something. Yeah,
Tell the
I
story,
think it'd be interesting.
Yeah, but the house has
It
been...
makes it interesting.
The house has been modified extensively since then, but so it's
Yeah.
not really. It's not like the. You're buying something,
Right.
because he probably wouldn't even recognize it today except for the location.
There's some there are two, three streets, Fair Street, West Chestnut Street, that are landmarked historic districts.
Right.
There's several historic district overlays in the city, as you know. There's some confusion as to how restrictive that means for you as a homeowner in one of those districts. A lot of people think, well, then I can't make any change without going to City Hall.
So
It's not as difficult. Most of those landmark designations are around, changing the front exterior visible from the street extensively.
so speaking of
But nothing about inside.
of historic homes, I happened to come across this last week. I'm reading a book on FDR's early life, and his mother, of course, Sarah Delano Roosevelt, grew up she was born in Newburgh.
Yeah.
And the Delano home, the location is for sale.
It was for sale. Yeah, I remember that.
Article.
Yeah.
I came across it last week. I can't remember, Algonquin or something like that, the name. Anyway, it looks like, is there like a value to those kind of homes? Is like, that's what made me kind of think like is just adding that linkage to it. Although, interestingly enough, I guess that isn't the actual structure that she grew up in, because that actually burned to the ground and it was rebuilt in the early 20th century.
I think there's a bit of a premium. It's hard to quantify.
It was in the news. I mean, I think the Middletown Record had a story on it. That's where I came across it.
Yeah, it was, and I didn't know she was from Newburgh.
Yeah.
The house is in pretty good shape. I mean, it's been lived in. Yeah,
the pictures
it's sort of a high-end house.
Yeah, very high-end, yeah.
I've sold. There's always some historic quirk if it were sort of a famous architect back in the day.
Right.
If it's a celebrity's house. There are certain people who are drawn to that, and I'm not saying they're going to pay you more,
right,
but the traffic is greater.
The level of interest,
and you drive the interest, you drive the price.
By the way, if you have an open house, say, well, maybe I'll go to that because I want to see how.
Open houses were banned during COVID. They've started to come back a little. We find my team did $100 million last year, and we did. That's about, I don't know, it was a lot of transactions. I can't remember the number, 70 something. We're finding sellers getting more and more comfortable again with open houses.
Speaking of,
as long as people are masked, people take their shoes off.
Oh, yeah.
People,
I have an open house story from a few years ago. I was out in California. I was driving through Malibu on a Sunday, and there was a Malibu beach house, and it had a sign "Open House." I said, okay, I'll go.
Yeah.
And I walked in and said, why not? I want to see what a Malibu beach house, what it looked like. So I'm in there. I'm chatting with the realtor. She's saying that. I said, I don't know. We'll see. And I said, it's very nice. So, of course, she says, of course, whoever buys this is going to just tear it down and build something new here. Oh, interesting. And I found out during the tour that home belonged to Demi Moore and what was her husband name?
Bruce Willis.
Bruce Willis.
Wow.
That was one of the homes that they had owned.
Bruce Willis's house is now a teardown.
Probably, who knows? But this was back in 2005. But it's just when we talked about open houses, it was on a whim. We were taking a Sunday morning drive. We were just driving through Malibu, and I said, "Oh, open house. Let's see what a Malibu beach house looks like." And
it's funny. Some sellers are comfortable with it. Some aren't. It's
Is it a good vehicle for selling a home?
Our firm, Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Hudson Valley Properties. So we're the biggest firm. We were Westwood Meats and Bounds over here.
Right.
And got bought by them. They were the biggest Dutchess County firm. They have a lot of success with it over there, and they promote it pretty actively. It's for whatever reason. I don't think it's ever been quite as popular on this side of the river as over there, but I think they work.
Now, your firm, though, I have seen you do virtual tours, so to speak, where you'll go have a realtor host and walk through a home.
We do a lot of that.
And I love to watch. Where I find them, I'll always stop and watch them because it's to vicariously just to see what it's like.
There are video tours. There are, typically, it's professional photography now. It's on everything at every price point, and it's also it's easy to do floor plans now of houses. So that's become a more and more standard thing to have not just photos of your house, but the person on the internet can see the floor plan.
Right. That's you see that a lot. The New York Times does their real estate section, and they'll list homes for sale in different. And you'll see if you then drill. I always find it just very interesting. Just even though I'm not even considering buying, I just see how how homes are.
The technology around that is fascinating.
Yeah.
Those floor plans are done by camera. So they I don't know how they do it. It's sort of triangulation or something, but they take photos in every room from all four corners, kind of, and somehow the camera can create a floor plan. Can do a measurement, creates a floor plan, all of it.
That's remarkable.
Yeah.
Hayes, it's so good to have you. There's no time like radio time.
It goes
I
by
swear
quickly.
to God, I sometimes that last hour at work, I'll be in the office and I'll think to myself, if I was only on the radio, I'd be out of here in no time. But Hayes Clement, we're chatting. So good to have you in with us.
Pleasure to see you, Brian.
Good to see you too, always, and very interesting. Maybe we'll see if we can have you back.
Absolutely.
Maybe set something up
Good
where
to be back.
We could do some regular chatting, maybe even have you in. You're a very interesting person, and we could speak about a lot of topics.
We can speak about a lot of things, sure.
Yeah, it'd be
And
great
Hayes was
to
one
dig
of
into that.
Hayes was one of our hosts.
Right, yes.
Not long ago.
No, not all that long.
Andy Turco.
And,
Yep, with Andy
I think
Turco.
the tables were
Evans,
turned. I was a guest on his
That's right.
show.
That's right.
Excellent to know that. Yeah, it's nice to remember that. Okay, we better
to
go
see you
to our
too,
break.
Dan.
Good to see you too, Hayes.
Hayes, awesome, man.
Oh, you're always great, Brian.
And you're with us here at KCR, Kingston Community Radio, AM 920 and 92.5 FM, and streaming online at mykcr.org. It's Thursday, February 10th, and 32 degrees right now here in Uptown Kingston. And this last portion of Kingston Community Radio has been brought to you by Rondout Savings Bank, always working for you and the community with branches in Kingston, West Hurley, and Hyde Park. Also online at rondoutbank.com. Equal housing lender, member FDIC. We'll be right back after these messages.
She can stand, she can do more, like build a rocket and watch it soar, clean the oceans and make the world a better place. Oh, she can STEM.
Learn more at She Can STEM, a message brought to you by the Ad Council.
What grows in the forest? Our imagination and our family bonds. The forest is closer than you think. Find a forest near you at discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Okay, kids, Dad's gonna teach you how to dance. First, spread your feet apart. Then, pump your knee.
Dance like a dad. It's a great way to make a moment with your kids. Visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Did you know breast cancer kills more than 41,000 people every year in the U.S.?
That's 113 people every day.
Breast cancer is unacceptable.
Visit Komen.org/unacceptable.
Hi, this is Scott Harrington from Hurley, and I support Kingston Community Radio because the people need a place to have their voice heard, and it's lost in corporate radio, so please keep listening and supporting our station.
And you're with us here at KCR, Kingston Community Radio, AM 920 and 92.5 FM, Thursday, February 10th, 32 degrees here in Uptown Kingston, and 845-331-9255 is our call-in number. And again, the 2-hour delays pretty much across the board in our 15-mile radius. Kingston City Schools, Rondout, Red Hook, Rhinebeck, Center for Spectrum Services in Kingston, New Paltz, Saugerties, and Onteora. All those districts are on a 2-hour delay today. And let's just jump to the chase here. Leave the weather alone. Everybody knows what the weather is going to be.
I would love to...
love to know what?
Well...
I could go through
we
it.
were speaking of Southern... Now, let's talk about where the weather's really warm today. You talk about endless summer. We were talking about... When Hayes was in with us a few minutes ago, we were talking about the time I was out in Malibu. out in California this weekend.
We've got our
right
guest.
now with Super Bowl. They're at 90-something degrees.
No
the
kidding.
game time temperature at kickoff for
what?
Super Bowl.
For Super Bowl's 90?
90 degrees.
Wow.
Really? For February? And,
Yeah, they're having a tremendous Santa Ana winds are
Hayes
blowing.
Clement was great, by the way. We need to get him back on the air
tremendous.
again.
We've got
that's
our
Central
guest,
Hudson?
Joe Jenkins from Central Hudson.
Good
Yes,
morning.
indeed.
Good morning. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't catch the name, Dan. What was
Joe Jenkins.
Oh, Joe Jenkins. Okay.
Joe from Central Hudson? Thank you very much for calling in this morning. And boy, you must have been a popular guy the last few days.
Yes, indeed. It was a busy one. You know, we're catching our breath now. You know, I have to wake up every morning and remind myself what day it is this week because we just powered right through the weekend. But you know, we're on the other side of it now. We're completing some cleanup work, and you know, we're making sure that everything is back on.
So, Joe, a question as it related to the storm and the service that you Central Hudson provided to all of us during this critical time was how you also had assistance from other localities, correct?
Yes, we did. It was actually the largest mutual aid force that Central Hudson has ever brought in its 122-year history.
Is that so?
Yes, it is.
And how obviously they were so effective. Are they still with us, or are they now starting to wind down?
It's a good question. I appreciate you asking it. The answer is some of them are still here. We're going to retain, especially the tree clearance folks. We're gonna keep as long as we can, because you know, with this storm, you know, as we all experienced, it was, you know, the storm went through Thursday night and Friday. But the damages continued to occur as tree branches fell and as trees fell because that ice just stayed on the trees. And now that we're warming up, that ice is melting and it's falling off and creating additional damage, and tree limbs and trees are snapping back and creating additional damage. So we're retaining some of the linemen and definitely a lot of the tree clearance folks, and we're going to keep them here to do, you know, comprehensive sweeps of all the circuits to make sure that more tree limbs aren't falling, to identify some areas that may have been damaged but didn't fall, but we want to make sure that we get them cleaned up so that we don't experience problems with them later.
Right.
So even though, you know, everyone's restored and their power's restored, there's still a lot of sort of post-storm efforts that are going on with Central Hudson and some of the mutual aid crews that we called in.
Gotcha. So, Joe, is it time for us to reevaluate or take a harder look at our tree inventory, particularly as it relates to transmission lines for electric?
You know, it's a good question. They're sort of, you know, the trees we have in the area. You know, we know that this area is one of the most tree dense areas in the country, frankly. So while our trees give us tremendous beauty, you know, 99 out of 100 times when it comes to storms like this, they do cause a lot of havoc. And, you know, we as a company have
I'll let my mom know.
Significantly ramped up our investments over the last 10 years in tree clearance and tree trimming and what we call our vegetation management. But right now we still find that to be the most cost-effective way to you know, improve upon our reliability ratings. But the truth of the matter is that you know, fallen trees and tree limbs are still the number one cause of storm-related outages.
Right.
So you know, I know that there has been some proposed legislation to do a feasibility study about undergrounding wires, and you know, when it comes to conducting a study like that, you know, we would support, you know, conducting a study to really look into the feasibility of that.
Yeah, I would think particularly as you get more into remote areas, that would be a very big challenge. I don't know if this is the right figure or not, but I've always been under the understanding that to have underground utilities, you're talking about $1 million a mile. Just as a rough estimate. I don't know if that's an accurate estimate, but that's one thing. I don't know if you know this about me or not, Joe. I do work for the city of Kingston in procurement, and I've often heard that figure bandied about. Now, whether that's accurate or not, I'm not sure, but certainly some kind of a study, like you said, would pin that down closer. But I don't know how practical that would be in a lot of our very rural areas that we have here in Ulster County.
It would be a challenge, and to your point with your $1 million a mile, you're probably a tad low on that. We did. Central Hudson conducted a study. Oh gosh, it was probably about 10 years ago now, and we came to the conclusion that to underground our distribution system would come at a total cost of, at the time it was about $18 billion, so close to $20 billion with a B dollars, and that would. And that wouldn't include, undergrounding the other utilities that sit on our poles, the upgrades that customers would need to have done to their homes to accept power from underground wires as opposed to overhead. So there's a lot that goes into it, and ultimately the conclusion that study that we did came to was that it would raise our ratepayers' bills significantly, about $10,000 a year, and. It's just something that we can't do to our customers. It'd be cost prohibitive to all of us, including me. I'm a Central Hudson customer.
Right, and I think also needs to be balanced out with the rate of.
It's something that we would look at, and I mean, it would if it's something that someone wanted to move forward with. It would we'd have to find another way to make it work other than just putting it on the shoulders of our ratepayers, for sure.
Oh, 100%. And again, you have to also add in the frequency of these types of occurrences, like it's sort of an actuarial table, and weigh how often these things actually occur, and do a evaluation on that. Again, trees are a touchy subject. Many of them become beloved in the community, or by their owners, or the people who have them in front of their homes, and because so they were planted in honor of someone or wherever, and it can definitely be a challenging situation. Well, we're just so the listeners know, we're chatting with Joe Jenkins from Central Hudson. He's and we want to pass along, all of us want to pass along our gratitude to Central Hudson, to the people who worked in the field to get us all up and running, the folks who responded to the mutual aid requests that came in from into our area from other locations to assist us. It's just again the gratitude we all have, because it was something. I've lived in Kingston all my life, and I don't ever recall a storm of this severity as far as an ice storm, and I've never seen anything quite like it ever, and hopefully you never won't again. Joe, while I do have a question though, as it relates, you mentioned about customers, the abilities in their homes or buildings to accept power. I understand that during the storm, I think it's probably quite should be expected that maybe some of the wires, as the trees fell, were pulled off of houses or pulled off of structures. Now, ordinarily, though, wouldn't the customer be responsible for doing that type of reconnection, or how would that ordinarily be handled?
It really depends. There's no blanket answer. But to your point, are there pieces of equipment that run from the service line, which is the line that runs from the local distribution poles along the street to the customer's home? There are portions of that service line, once it gets to the house, pieces of equipment that are the customer's responsibility. And we did have some instances where customer equipment was damaged, and now in this particular instance, with this storm especially, just because the damage was just so pervasive,
right?
And and when you have an outage of this nature in the wintertime, when it's just critical to get that power back on, our crews in a lot of instances did everything they could. If the equipment there was salvageable and we could use it to re-energize that house so they could get their heat back on, our crews would make every effort to try and do that. But for a quote unquote blue sky day, if a tree limb were to theoretically fall and damage some of that equipment, like the weather head, which is sort of where the service wire goes into the home, if that's damaged on a sort of blue sky day from a tree limb falling from who knows what, that would ultimately be, in that instance, the responsibility of a customer.
I see. So this was obviously an extraordinary and urgent circumstance then that needed to be addressed right away. Obviously, as you just said, that just to be able to have people have at least heat in their homes during like a night where we went below zero. That just it's what a remarkable endeavor. Joe, if I may ask, I don't know if you have statistics readily available, but in the city of Kingston, approximately how many individual Central Hudson customers are there?
Oh, I can pull that up if you give me just one moment.
Okay, sure.
I can tell you in terms of the outages and things like that. We didn't. I don't have the granular data down to the municipality, but I can tell you the total number of customers we have in the city of Kingston. We'd be looking at city of Kingston. We serve about 12,000, almost 12,600 customers.
Okay, and it's fair to say maybe at least a third of them were impacted by this storm,
if not more. Yeah,
if not more. Central Hudson does provide on their website, I believe also on their mobile app, an outage map, right? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
I can tell you, I was referring to it quite often during the outage, which I experienced at my home. Are there any plans maybe update that a little bit more so people could scroll in and zoom in closer to their immediate area? It looked like large swaths of towns. You could see where outages were, but would there be an ability ever, you think, on that? And again, this is on the periphery of the urgent circumstance that we had over the weekend, but I'm just wondering, would there be any thought given maybe to making that apps or that map so people could scroll in a little closer to their neighborhoods and see and just to get a better idea for streets? Because some of the outages look like they're on borders of streets. You couldn't quite tell. I was wondering. I'm sure it's early yet, but I wonder if anything like that could be considered.
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think it's something that we look at in a lot of different venues, especially when it comes to storm response. But we live in the sort of DoorDash and Uber society where you can track where things are right from your phone. So, we're always looking at different ways that we can improve our technology to improve our customer experience and provide them with more information and greater transparency. So, I think when we get to the other side of major outage events like this, we catch our breath, and then we sit down as an executive team and really kind of walk through what we did right and things that we could improve upon for the next time. So I think we look at it from both just an operations standpoint, but I think we also look at it from a technological standpoint. So I think, looking at ways that we can improve our sort of online communications with our customers is something that we'll definitely take a look at.
Oh, sure. That's very understandable. And again, like I said, user expectations for the reasons you mentioned earlier, whether it be Uber or any other type of app, our user expectations are to a more sophisticated level now, where we're looking for more detail on things like that. Whereas I over the course of the storm, there were several friends of mine that I let them know that feature existed. A lot of folks weren't necessarily familiar with that. So it is good data to have, but if anything could be done to make that drill down closer and you can see individual streets, I think the individual users would appreciate that very much. So as we're winding down Central Hudson's response to the storm, I'm sure it doesn't feel like you're winding down now. You said you're doing still a lot of tree evaluations. I'm sure there's a lot of widowmakers out there in some of these trees. Does Central Hudson contract with a firm to assist them with that, or is this mostly Central Hudson personnel that carries out this work?
It's a mix. We have some internal tree folks, some arborists and tree clearance, and then we also work with vendors and contractors that we work with to work with our vegetation management. So it's a pretty healthy mix of both.
Joe, do you have are there certain trees that are more vulnerable by species? Are there certain trees that you find that you have to carry out and clear more often than others?
Well, I tell you, I think one of the trees that we keep an eye on, and this is really year-round, this isn't isolated to this particular storm. But ash trees in this area have become a problem just due to invasive species. This emerald ash borer insect is an invasive species that just runs through these trees, weakens them, sickens them, ultimately kills them. And we've got a lot of ash trees in the area, so it's a situation where once they're sort of infected, we view them as what we call danger trees. And even if whether they're within the right of way of the power lines or without, we try to identify those trees, work with property owners to get them removed if we can, so that we can sort of preemptively solve a problem that could potentially occur further down the line.
Thank you.
So vegetation management, I would presume, is an ongoing program with Central Hudson. Is that so?
Absolutely. It's every day we have a cycle that we work with throughout our territory, where our contractors and our internal crews sort of go through a multi-year cycle where we'll go through a certain area and trim those trees on a given year and then go back. But of course, it's we have that sort of mathematical formula to do that, but on top of that, we'll also go through, and if we get reports either from employees or from customers that they're seeing growth that's getting in or near lines, we'll certainly kind of come off the more formulaic approach and trim in areas that need it right then and there.
Okay, Joe, again, we're chatting with Joe Jenkins from Central Hudson, and we're just going over some of the recent events, as I'm sure all of our listeners can appreciate how devastating this storm was, and many of them were impacted by power outages. Joe, are we able to confirm 100% that all the listeners, any person that would have suffered an outage due to this storm, that they've been restored if they're in the city of Kingston area?
It's my understanding that we've achieved, full restoration. Now there may be, a one-off where, like the incident that we spoke about before, there may be an incident where a customer who is potentially responsible for equipment that we just simply couldn't fix on our end is waiting for a contractor to make a repair so that we can re-energize the line. There were a small handful of those instances that I'm aware of. I don't have an exact figure on it, but there were times where our crews, where the damage required a licensed master electrician to complete repair so that we could re-energize the line. So to the best of my knowledge, all of the largest reported outages that we've received have been repaired, but the possibility exists that there may be a few, like a one-off or a two-off like that, where there might be somebody still waiting to get final repairs by an electrician.
Gotcha. So no one, though, we could say with reasonable certainty that no one, though, is waiting on Central Hudson right at this point to do any kind of restoration work. That Central Hudson has completed their end of the restoration work then in the city of Kingston.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, good. Let me see. As it relates to mutual aid, how was the response? From what I understand, there were people in this city very quickly after from out of town participating in mutual aid very quickly after the storm passed. Was that something extraordinary that the response would have been that quick?
Well, this storm was unique in that it provided a lot of punch, but to a very small area, geographically speaking, in the broader scheme of things. Like when we dealt with Tropical Storm Isaias, that impacted our entire service area, all 8 counties that we serve. And it also impacted our neighboring utilities. So, for this storm in particular, the process was we had called in a number of crews preemptively about a day before the storm that were coming in from Indiana and Pennsylvania. So they had a little bit of a road to drive to get here. So there was a small contingent that we brought in, prior to the storm in the event that it, outperformed our expectations. And then, of course, this storm outperformed our wildest expectations, so we had to call in more crews. So one of the reasons why you saw a lot of crews here very quickly was because our neighbors at National Grid and up in upstate New York, and our neighbors with Orange and Rockland down in Rockland County, their areas were not impacted nearly in the same way that Ulster County was. The damage with this storm was really focused, so we were able to receive help from our neighboring utilities and our partners extremely quickly. And the added benefit with them being local is they're a little more familiar with the area, so they can really come in, get briefed, hit the ground running, and start restoring folks as soon as possible.
Do you know, Joe, approximately how many square miles were severely impacted by this storm? When I say severely, would have had extended outages.
I couldn't say square mileage wise, but I can say just more anecdotally, geographically, it was really the sort of northern portions of Ulster County. I would say the way that I've been describing it to folks is, I live in Poughkeepsie. I live right on the border of the town and the city of Poughkeepsie.
Mm-hmm.
And just, on my side of the river, next to nothing happened. But if you went across and you traveled up to right about once you started going north of 299 is where we saw, the more significant damage occurring. So I couldn't give you a sort of mileage radius, but it seems to me like when our experience with our crews and everything was that it was just sort of the northern portion of the county just really caught the brunt of it.
Do you know how far west it may have extended out past Woodstock and maybe Onteora out that way, the 28 corridor? Do you know how far it extended out there, the damage?
I know Woodstock was definitely very hard hit.
Uh-huh.
Now much further west than that, I can't say for sure. But Woodstock was an area where we had to devote a number of resources. It was just Woodstock, Saugerties area caught a lot of damage. So
okay.
As much further out west, I couldn't say for sure.
How long was your power out for, Brian?
My power, about 14 hours.
Mine was out for about 8, and I live across from the Ulster County office building, and I guess I got lucky because Dan Gruner, our co-host here on Fridays, who's actually on tomorrow with Frandy Petro, he was out of power for 2 days, but he just happened, and he's only 2 blocks down the road from me. He lives on Main Street as well as I do, but he just happened to be in in that grid where they just couldn't get it back up and running, and he's up and running now, but it's just some people were affected harder than others. So
yeah. Joe, when I answered the question before, I said how long my power was out. I said 14 hours, and that was like the one extended outage I had. After the power was restored, I did encounter 2 brief, like on Sunday morning, it was out for like an hour and a half, and then the other evening it was out for maybe a half hour. Someone mentioned to me that's Central Hudson, when they're maybe reconnecting or restoring power or service in certain areas, that they need to temporarily shut off the power again for a safe reconnection. Is that necessarily so, or could it be other factors that would have caused those outages?
Yeah, it could very well be that, and again with this storm, a lot of what we saw, was, we measure severity of a storm here by individual damage locations, and with this storm, our crews addressed over 1,350 individual damage locations, most of them in Ulster County.
That's a lot.
And, most of those damage
in
locations...
such a small area.
Yes, that is a lot.
A lot of those damage locations didn't happen on Friday night during the storm. It happened after the fact.
Right. That's when the calls started coming in, right?
That lost service, had it restored, and then lost it again, and it was simply because, more damage had occurred. But that being said, it could very well be a situation with the shorter outage that, you had initially been restored by us rerouting power through another circuit, and then once the repairs were made to the damaged location that had initially caused your outage, we had rerouted you again. So you had a little bit of a blip in your service from that.
So, well, fortunately for me, though, I got real proficient at setting the clock on my stove. Prior to this storm, I always needed to refer to the owner's manual, but now I can do it myself. So that's one good thing. So I'm fully prepared next month when we spring ahead for daylight savings time. I will be really proficient.
That's coming up soon now too.
I'll be proficient at changing the time on my stove. So I won't even need to refer to the owner's manual. Or first of all, remember where the owner's manual is. That's the number one objective. Remembering where the owner's manual. So I got real proficient at that, and so if there was a silver lining somewhere, that had to be it. Anyway, Joe, thank you so much for taking the time to call in and chat with us and provide listeners with this information. I think hopefully we might have got information out that a lot of people were wondering about the last few days. And I just wanted, again, on behalf of, I think, of everyone here at Kingston Community Radio, I want to extend our gratitude to Central Hudson.
Yes, absolutely.
And to the men and women who really actively worked
Round the clock.
I'm guessing, yes, continuously to restore our service and get people back up and running in a safe circumstance in their home. So, Joe, thank you so much for calling in. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, guys. I appreciate the kind words.
All right, have a great day, Joe.
Thank you. You too.
Real quick before we sign off, Dan, I just realized this before, and I thought I heard you and George talking about it. Today marks the day, February 10th, 2002, Kingston Community Radio broadcasted live for the first time. So hold on. Now, I was thinking about this. I was like, oh my God, Brian Waldman has been here for 3 historical KCR. So the last show, I don't know if you were there. Well, you were taking speakers down that day, Dan. But the last show at John Street, me and Brian did together. That's right. Okay, the first show at this studio, me and Brian did together.
Oh, wow.
And the 20-year show, I should actually say you did the show today by yourself because I wanted to let you listen. You do it. You're such a good job of being a host, Brian. I don't even need to be here. You can run the whole thing. But thank you for being here for these 3 historical, monumental KCR. I mean.
Did you ever know that you're also a golf master, but did you know that you're also a radio master?
Yeah,
You're very, very good at this.
Thank you.
I'm an avid radio
A couple of weeks ago, I had called you on a Wednesday, and I said, "Hey, I'm in a pinch. I need you to come and fill in." And thank you for.
I do enjoy it.
Good.
And,
well, we love having you here.
Yogi Berra said 90% of success is showing up, and we're out of time.
It is. All right, so take it away, Dan. Thank you so much. Can you do another 2?
And thank you for being with us here at Kingston Community Radio. And huge kudos to everyone who was our guest today. Heidi Haynes, George Post, Joe Jenkins. George Post, American Legion. Heidi Haynes, Assistant for Senator. And Joe Jenkins, Central Hudson, all about the restorations that luckily we're experiencing. And thank you for being with us here at KCR, Kingston Community Radio, AM 920, 92.5 FM, and streaming online at mykcr.org. Inspired discussions about our communities with the community. And we invite you to be with us tomorrow. And tomorrow we're with... let's see. I'm going to read this out. Okay. Tomorrow we are with Dan Gruner and Fran DiPetrillo Savoca. And so till tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., we wish you every success in growing and developing Kingston and all our neighboring communities. We now return you to Magic 92.5.